I don't want to blame plural marriage, but it just hasn't worked very well for us.
Hello and welcome to Happily Ever Reality. I am so glad you're here. You guys, we are days away from a new season of Sister Wives. I am so excited. I am really looking forward to seeing how everything unfolds this season. But before it starts, I wanted to do a video where we talked about some of the stuff that was happening throughout season 17. Of course, the big storyline from the last season was that Christine was leaving, and she wasn't just leaving Kody, she was leaving Flagstaff. So that was the major storyline. But Janelle also had her own thing going on. She was ready to be out there at Coyote Pass, so she started really pushing that. She wanted the family to prioritize building homes out there. So she moved out of her home and into an RV, but by the end of the season, she had finally went from the RV into an apartment. But we definitely could see Janelle, getting frustrated that they weren't moving out onto the property and there wasn't progress being made. And the Robyn Brown household got COVID. So everyone got it, including, of course, Kody and Robyn. So that was sort of something we saw at the end. And last but definitely not least, Meri is still alienated from most of the family and sort of like the outcast of the wives. So that kind of sums up how things went for the wives in the family. And of course, Kody was just Kody. And, what do we need to say about that, right? So that was the major storylines going on. Kody was having issues with his kids. I guess we want to throw that in there too, because that was something that was brought up a lot. But those were the major storylines. But let's look back at some of the things the family did throughout the season. Now, these are in no particular order, but I'm probably going to number them off just to help myself. But number one is they failed to communicate. Like, it was an epic fail. This family just does not communicate at all. They have some problems here. It was bad enough that Robyn actually pointed it out.
This has not been a discussion.
With Christine leaving?
Well, yeah.
It's not a taboo subject. You guys want to talk about it?
Well, it's just weird that we're already talking about the land when we haven't really touched base after she left.
You heard that correctly. They literally did not talk about Christine leaving. That is a major change for a family. Someone got divorced. Someone is leaving the family. A wife. That's immediate family. That's something you should talk about, but they just did not discuss it as a family at all. This is a type of thing that some families might go to therapy over, a divorce, but not the Browns. They went ahead and just jumped to talking about Coyote Pass and where they're going to live on the property and didn't really talk about Christine leaving at all. And Robyn actually brought it up. And Robyn actually brought it up several times throughout the season that they don't communicate with each other. Communication has completely broken down in this family. Number two, we saw Janelle's loyalty and friendship with Christine more than ever.
I don't know what there is really to discuss. I don't want a Christine bashing fest, and I don't really need to process it.
I really felt like during season 16 and 17, we saw Janelle and Christine get closer than ever. Their relationship wasn't always perfect. And Kody does like to point that out. Like, how did this happen? How did they become so close? And I'm going to be honest, I think a part of it is because of Kody. The way he reacted to COVID sort of divided the family and pushed Christine and Janelle even closer together. And we saw throughout season 17, Janelle just was not going to talk bad about Christine. And Christine was the same way about Janelle. And to be honest, it's been one of the better things, I think, that has came out of the last two seasons. Number three, in season 17, Robyn cried.
Christine leaving has put me in a very dark spot.
I used to think that people were being hard on her when they said she really wasn't crying, but that scene specifically has left me wondering, they're all sitting there. Janelle's not crying. Meri looks like she doesn't even want to be there. Kody's not crying, yet Robyn is very, very emotional. And I know there are people that have that sort of personality or that's how they react to things, they cry. But I just don't know. It seems like Robyn cries over everything. She's done this for a long time, and I have a feeling it's not going to let up. I'm sure we're going to see plenty of Robyn tears in season 18. You know, all I'm going to say about this is obviously being the favorite wife does not make your life perfect, because Robyn spends a whole lot of time crying. Number 4, Kody still doesn't want to be with Meri. You know, this has went on for years and years and years. It's actually one of the things that kind of had drawn me back into the show. I wanted Meri to leave Kody, and I thought Meri would leave first. Like, I want Meri to go. It doesn't even matter how I feel about Meri. This woman needs to leave this relationship. And Kody doesn't hold back. He's pretty honest about it. He even had a few things to say during season 17.
Ironically, Meri's trying to support me, and I don't want to be in a relationship with her anymore.
Kody doesn't hold back, but Meri Brown holds on. That is what the dynamic is between the two of them. But we know, because, you know, this past year they announced publicly they are really officially no longer together. I'm hoping we get to see that sort of unfold during this season. I normally don't celebrate relationships ending, but to me, this relationship has been over for so long. To me, they've just been like faking it for the public. And I imagine it is very freeing for both of them to let that go. So to me, that sort of is something to celebrate. And I hope it helps Meri, because I know there's a lot of things about her being angry and not a nice person. And you know what? Maybe this would be of some benefit to her, you know, to not have to fake your relationship because it's out there in the public and you're on TV. So I'm looking forward to seeing them both move on. Number 5, Meri seems to have an epiphany about her relationship.
It's interesting hearing him talking about this and the parallels that is happening with him and Christine and me and him.
Meri continues on and says that it is disturbing. I can't help but think that Christine leaving unintentionally will give Meri, you know, what she needs to realize that her relationship is not fulfilling and she needs to move on as well. So I know Christine and Meri don't have a great relationship, and they haven't had a good relationship for years, but I do think Christine is actually helping both Meri and Janelle by being the first one to walk out of this marriage. Number 6, Kody continues to have issues with his children.
I think this is an indicator that Janelle and her children are talking about me behind my back, because nobody's confronting me with it.
Now, this was the last episode, or one of the last episodes of season 17. That is what he said. He thinks they're talking about him behind his back. Well, of course they are, because they can't talk to him to his face. It appears that he never calls them or shows up to see them. You would think as a parent he would realize going really long periods of time without seeing and talking to his kids that those relationships are probably starting to deteriorate, but the only thing he could get out of that moment with them and talking to Janelle is that they were talking about him behind his back. Kody is never going to make the relationships with his kids better if he does not acknowledge that he is a part of it. He is a huge part in how his kids feel about him, and never choosing to go see your kids and never making them a priority. They're going to notice that. And eventually, dad won't be a priority either. Cody's not. I mean, he already is. And I think a lot of these kids are so used to just not seeing their dad, they don't even worry about it anymore. It's just the way they were all raised. But for him to say it's because they're all talking about him behind his back and not to his face, well, that's because you don't ever see their faces, Kody. Number 7, Janelle got more outspoken about Robyn.
At the end of the day, Kody still wants them to show respect and apologize, especially to this person in the family who's done all these amazing emotional things for us and has just been hurt, aka Robyn.
To me, Janelle has always been someone who, You can read how she feels about something by her face. And it's always been like that. Even early on in the show, you could tell when she wasn't happy about something. She wasn't always super direct about it, but you could just tell she was unhappy.
You know, I have no idea. Robyn's acting like she's never heard this before. I think she's pretending possibly that she's never heard this before because Kody's a blabbermouth and he can't keep anything secret.
I feel like during this season, and really I think it's happening because of her kids, but I feel like during this last season, she was just more direct about how, you know, the dynamics of the family were, specifically with Kody and Robyn. But I think her kids kind of put her in that position. I think they viewed Robyn as the problem, and eventually, you know, you have to say that. You can't tiptoe around that. If your kids are not allowed over at one person's house, eventually you're going to have to talk about it. So I felt like we've seen a lot more of Janelle just being honest. Like, my kids are upset. Robyn's a part of the problem. They don't want to apologize to her. Like, there was no more tiptoeing around it. I will say, when you watch it and you're really observing how she's talking about it, I think she places more of the blame on how Kody is handling it than actually Robyn directly. I think she sees Kody as the issue and not so much Robyn. But I felt like during this season, she was more honest about that relationship and about the role that Robyn plays in the family. So it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds during the next season. And number 8, this is the last one. It really felt like Kody understood that plural marriage just doesn't work that well. It seemed like at the end of the final episode, and during those tell-alls, he is a changed man from season 1. He realizes it just doesn't work. Now, does he see himself as a part of the problem? Probably not, but he does realize it just doesn't work that well.
I don't want to blame plural marriage, but it just hasn't worked very well for us.
Kody doesn't always have a lot of depth, but I did feel like when they were all sitting outside talking, I felt like he was really reflecting on what had happened in his marriages, and it seems like he is beginning to understand that polygamy just doesn't work. When he was out there and during the show, during the confessionals, you know, he talked about how he has issues with his kids. He had issues with his parents. Now he has issues with his wives. I'm hoping at one point Kody can kind of realize he is the common denominator there. You know, he has all those issues with all those people, and maybe he does need to go to therapy, and maybe he needs to go to therapy with those people, and he needs to, you know, keep reflecting, keep going, Kody. I think he's headed possibly in the right direction. If he doesn't detour the way he often does, where then he goes and blames everyone else, if he can just really see his life, get the big picture of it, and realize he is playing a role in how all of these relationships are happening. He's not the victim in all the stories. I think he might make some progress. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think it'd be really interesting if this season Kody acknowledges his role in things and we see Kody try to work on himself. Now, do I think that's going to happen? Absolutely not. But that would be a twist none of us expected. That is it for this video. Of course, I will have a new video out next week to talk about the newest episode of Sister Wives, as well as 90 Day Fiancé The Last Resort. So come back if you want to talk more about those shows. And if you haven't already and you feel like it, go ahead and click like and subscribe. Thanks for coming to Happily Ever Reality.